In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, we have a very special guest that's waiting to give you guys loads and loads of information that I think is going to be very, very plentiful for you guys to use. Our guest tonight is Naphtali Bryant. Naphtali Bryant decided to return to school after a 13-year gap between college coursework. He chose to attend the Alamo Colleges in San Antonio, Texas, to switch from retail to business. His decision would take him on a journey of high achievement, multiple degrees, scholarships, and the birth of his entrepreneurial pursuit. Naphtali was interested in the concept of using higher education to advance his career and get paid while he was studying. He developed a system that helped him earn multiple national scholarships and speaking engagements, including speaking at state capitol in Austin, Texas, and studying abroad in both Taiwan and China in 2015. In 2017, Naphtali developed Spark Ed University. Spark Ed's mission is to bridge the gap between education and career success. The vision is to help students find a career that best express their unique purpose, find ways to fund their education with little to no debt, and make it possible for students to work in their career of choice. Mr. Bryant is currently works at the United Way of San Antonio in Bexar County, and works as a child care scholarship coordinator, where he engages scholars daily. As a child care scholarship coordinator, he markets the scholarships during both application cycles, develops relationships with local child care centers, and is the liaison between the scholars and the Women United. Mr. Bryant was named one of the top 100 leaders in education by Global Forum for Education and Learning in 2020 and selected to take part in the Emerging Leaders program at St. Philip's College in 21. Naphtali took part in the Alamo College Leadership Academy for Success, that's ALAS, in 2022, and was voted as one of the leaders for the 2022 cohort. He earned the National Institute for Staff and Organizational Development, that's NISOD 2022, Excellence Award for St. Philip's College. His work is international as well. Naphtali received a nomination to the 2022 Hall of Fame by the editorial board of Passion Vista and Unified Brains Group in association with Confederation of International Accreditation Commission in India, a guest speaker for the BA Talk Club at the University of Tolima in Tolima, Colombia, and was recently awarded for his work at the United Way of San Antonio in Bexar County, the 2023 Outstanding Entrepreneur Award, and the not-for-profit sector by Global Entrepreneurs Institute in Brisbane, Australia. In 2024, Naphtali volunteered as a mentor for leaders of the free world, an organization that helps African American men study abroad in Ghana yearly. In early 2024, Naphtali was selected as an honorary listee for the Marquee Who's Who. Lastly, Naphtali is an Alamo College Foundation scholar and promotes the Alamo College's foundation scholarship while attending Palo Alto College and earning a bachelor's in applied technology and operations management. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to the show Mr. Naphtali Bryant. Hello, sir.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing just excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well. I apologize for the lighting. I had to change rooms, but I'm here. Can't wait to have this conversation.
No problem. I definitely appreciate you coming back to the show. Is there anything you'd like to add before we get into the show?
To the bio.
Yes.
Um, hmm, that I'm going on my third year wedding anniversary in September.
Mhm.
I'm a father now of not now, but father of seven and a grandfather of 11.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Oh, wow. You definitely added to the tree.
yeah. I guess we took fruitful and multiplied for real.
Oh, wow. So, we're gonna. So as we go ahead and get into the show, I'm gonna start off with
Okay.
entrepreneurship, and I want if you can tell us what inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and how did you start your journey?
What really inspired me was I received a scholarship. So I was looking for, I had been from like 2013 to 2015 helping students with trying to navigate college, whether that was, how to talk to financial aid, but it was mostly scholarship stuff. And I just so happened to see this scholarship for a branding class at our local library. So I applied and I got the scholarship. And while I was in the class, I started talking about some of the stuff I was doing. And the lady, her name is Zara Cruzan. She said, "You know what? I wish I had have met you while I was in college based off of the stuff I was just kind of thinking." And so she said, "Well, listen, I've got something that I'm trying to do, but I don't really know if it's going to work or not. Would you be okay allowing me to use you and formulate whatever you're trying to do, and we'll work on this together?" And so basically that kind of inspired it. Was she helped me actually flush out the name. She actually flushed helped me flush out the mission and vision of it. And she also helped me with the brand colors and stuff like that. And so it kind of started formally that way. The informal way it started was literally I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and out of nowhere, I've talked to her once, and I haven't talked to her since. It was a doctor out of Washington D.C., and she said, "How much do you charge for your services?" Well, trying to be ethical, I was like, "Well, I don't have a service. I more have like a informed conversation." And she said, "Well, I don't care what you do. Set up an invoice." And so, like, literally, I set up an invoice for, I think it was like $25, $30 to talk to her daughter
Mhm,
for like 1 hour. That kind of
mhm,
started it, but that was the informal part. It was when I was dealing with Zara is when it really kind of flushed out. And now what I try to do is kind of mix the two. So basically off work, I'm trying to be more of an entrepreneur, but I'm using those same skill sets and vision and thought process when I'm dealing with my scholars at work. So it kind of mixes in. I'm blessed to be working in a field and in a position that allows me to sharpen my skills while at work that I can use when I get off work.
And so, as you got that opportunity to start your business that way, what are some of the things that for our audience, for those that are thinking about being entrepreneurs and the many things or the many opportunities that may pop up to them? What are some advice that you could give them?
You're gonna have to do it scared, especially if it looks like what you're doing is a bunch of people are doing it. You have to have very strong self-esteem, because that fear will talk you out of what possibly could be the greatest thing that you're doing in your life. The other part is really understanding that when you are the founder, the CEO, of any type of business venture, it only goes as far as you're developed, because the most valuable real estate that's going to be a part of your business is the mind of the person at the top. So if you're not constantly developing, you don't know what systems to put into your work, into your entrepreneur pursuit, to give it its best way to live. And if you don't have a level of emotional intelligence, what will happen is the negative things, the long nights, the overwork, the no's, whether that's the no's from like family or friends, or people that say that your idea is whack and all the other type of stuff. If you don't have the emotional intelligence to be able to deal with that and have a healthy outlet, your entrepreneur pursuit is not going to go too far. You've got to have the more mental stuff. The capital will come. There's somebody in the earth that needs what the idea that you have. It may take you a while to find it, but that capital will come. If you're not developed and you're not ready for the actual opportunity, doesn't matter what your idea is, it's not going to go as far as it could. The only difference between like you and a Tim Cook is that that thing was already developed, and when it was time for him to step up for CEO, he was ready. The question you probably have to ask
Mhm.
yourself is, if you got everything that you wanted or you thought you needed, or the stuff you didn't even think you needed, and if it came to you at one time, would you have the self capacity to be able to build on what your hopes and dreams are?
Wow. And I think that's really sound advice, because I think a lot of people, I think the fear itself, it takes a lot of people away from taking advantage of a lot of
Hmm.
opportunities. And I think for the times that we're in now, I think well, this is just my opinion. I think there's going to be an enormous amount of people that are possibly going to be looking at entrepreneurship in a way like never
Hmm.
before, because this job uncertainty and everything else is just saying, hey, just go do
Hmm.
you.
And that's what a good CEO entrepreneur understands, is that there's opportunities everywhere. I was just thinking about this earlier today during lunch. There's people right now that are so upset about the political outcome of the recent election, right? That Trump got in, and Vice President Kamala Harris didn't get in. Well, there's a time period that you can mourn or celebrate depending on how you voted. But then there comes a time period where there's an advantage or a disadvantage. There was an advantage to some of those, that if Kamala Harris got elected, you would have an advantage. There's also some advantages, the fact that Trump's in office. You don't have to like him, but are there some advantages? And is there a way for you to craft your business to take advantage of what possibly could be coming down the road policy wise? That's the emotional intelligence part. Those people that are still sitting there mourning about the loss of the election, they're going to miss out, or they're going to be a year or two late. The ones that were able to shift, whether that was positive or negative, and figure out what it's going to take to thrive the next 4 years, are the ones that's going to thrive. And so you have to be able to hone in your emotions. I'm not saying that you can't deal with whatever they are, whether they were positive or negative, but what you can't do is let them linger. Think of it like in a NFL football game. The coaches tell you all the time, okay, we won today and we can celebrate tonight, but tomorrow we got to get ready for the next opponent. Well, it's time to get ready for the next opponent. If the job market is the way it is, and if AI is coming out the way it's coming out, where's the advantage in what's blowing in the wind right now? Because there is one. Have you discovered what it is? Or are you still mourning in the fact that it's cloudy outside and your job may not be as secure as it never was? It never was as secure as you thought it was, but now you're finding out that, you know, your worst fear is coming to life now.
So can you describe your first
Mhm.
venture and what you learned from that experience?
Um, Good question. You have to be careful who's around you, because if you can have, negative Nancy's that tell you it's absolutely not going to work, and then you can have yes men that tell you it's going to work, and you need a good healthy dose of both. You need somebody to tell you it's not going to work. so you can figure out where your holes are. But you need somebody to tell you it is going to work. So when you do have that rejection, you know how to get up and keep going. I think with mine, what it was that I had an idea, but I needed somebody to help me flush it out to make it formal. I was on pace to becoming a very good hustler, right? And the difference between a hustler and an entrepreneur is systems and structures, right? And so I had to learn what type of systems to have in place because at some point, especially if you're getting the entrepreneurship for quote unquote financial freedom, you really will change
Mhm.
slave owners. If you think your job is a slave owner, then if you come and you work for the most irrational person you could work for, which is you just change slave owners unless you understand how to put systems and structures in place. The whole goal of entrepreneurship should be to build something that you don't have to work and it works itself. And you have to keep honing that thing in until it gets to that point. And then once you get to that point, then don't marry it because the exit may be where you actually get your wealth. Some of the most famous people, that's how they got wealthy was when they exited the their baby in their entrepreneurship, and that's how they became wealthy. So for me, it was I needed those systems. I'm still working on systems. I had a course and I took it down because I'm learning more now that I came back to school, for instance, in financial aid. I can have more tips that I can teach them, like literally, not only that you need to talk to your advisor, when's the best time of the academic year to talk to them? Little stuff like that that can bring more value to the customers, and then I'll relaunch it. You don't fail. You may fail to learn, but you don't fail. And as long as you can have that
Mhm.
type of ingenuity in you, then you're always going to succeed. And don't marry what you think success looks like because it may not be what you think it's supposed
Well,
to be.
so in this case, let's delve into that a little
Okay.
bit, and let me just ask you to give an example of that. Would that be like an example of people from your community? Would there be like people that you've been friends with? I mean, like exactly where are you going with that?
So I'll give you an example about circle. So I use my parents for example. So my dad, for
Mhm,
most of my cognitive life,
mhm,
has been a
mhm,
level of entrepreneur. So he went from selling cars, which is semi-entrepreneurial, and then he owned his own pest control. Well, he worked for a pest control company. Then he realized he can make more, and he was doing all the work, and he can go become, start his own business. And then he became a full-time pastor, where you still have to do a lot of business to run ministry. People don't know it, but you have to do a whole lot. I had him on one end. On the other end, I had my mother who worked for the government for 35 years, I think, or so.
mhm,
They both gave me ideas. My mom was an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur. And so normally the circle I've been around, whether they identified or not, those people were in one of those two buckets. I'm a little bit of both. I'm probably more 60 entrepreneur than I am and 40 entrepreneur. But I'm a good
mhm,
discerner of opportunities. And so I've got to be around people who can see opportunities like I can see opportunities so that I can bounce an idea off of somebody, right? The other part is
mhm.
I'm not married to that I have the greatest idea. The one thing my mom taught me is that I may have a great idea, I may not have the best execution, right? And the execution is where you actually get the entrepreneurial um, outcomes, which is for a lot of people sales and stuff like that. So the idea may be smart,
Mhm.
but I may need a executor or somebody that can help me hone in that execution. And so that's what I meant by marrying it. You may have a great idea, but it may not be sellable in the idea form you have. You may have to allow for
Right.
it to be tweaked so that it can be used
Mhm,
in the marketplace. It may solve the problem you wanted to solve, but you can't marry that it
mhm,
has to solve it the way you want to solve it, because then you're no more than
mhm.
a control freak, and control freaks don't get any money.
No, I like that. I like that. And you know that makes a lot of sense. And But what do you think about mindset though? What kind of mindset should these people be in when they're thinking about they want to go and start a business?
You should think that every day I need to learn, and every day I need to
Hmm.
be able to learn from anybody that can teach me. Every conversation that you have, somebody can teach you something. There may be somebody
Hmm.
that's literally homeless and they're smiling, and you're worried about a credit card bill that you can pay, you just don't want to pay it. That's a lesson you can learn, right? And so if you're in the mindset of I can learn from anybody and I need to learn something every day, that's half of it. Because the way technology is changing, whether you want to learn AI or not, you better, right?
Yes.
And so if you
Yes.
don't position yourself that way, your entrepreneur thing is not going to last the test of time. And because time is speeding up, and because there's all new tools that we have now that are going to be totally different in 5 years as fast as everything is going, if you're not postured that I can be taught, then even if you get the greatest mentor in the world, if Warren Buffett told you, talk to you, contact you and say, I want to help teach you how to invest, because you don't have the proper perspective, Warren Buffett couldn't even teach you anything, right? So you have to
Mhm.
be there. It's a inner work that, if you don't do that first, it doesn't matter what's happening outside of you, right? There's smart, intelligent entrepreneurs in jail, but they were in the wrong environment, and a lot of them didn't figure out how to translate what they were doing illegally to legally, and that that line is very thin. There's some corporations that are doing just as bad as your local drug dealer, but they know the law to get away with it. Are you willing to learn what you need to learn to be successful? Um, is a big thing, I think. It's all internal as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Well, so have you faced as an entrepreneur, and how did you overcome those?
The biggest challenge is being too busy to be all the way focused. So to give you an idea, part of the reason why I took my course down was, um, I started I started it in formalizing it 2017, kind of really started doing it in 2018. 2019, I started working at one of my alma maters, St. Philip's College. So
Mhm.
when I'm in this position and I'm working in the records and registration office, which basically means there's not a student on St. Philip's College campus that did not come by our office. We
Mhm.
got your paperwork going in and we conferred your degrees going out. And so learning what I didn't know as a student took a lot of my, what should have been entrepreneurial development time. I was learning that part. And then this is 2019, 2020, we had COVID, right? And
Right.
so me being working extra hours, me being one of, I think, like two or three people in my whole building that could go to and from the campus, and that transition and all that, it delayed some of my entrepreneurial development. I could have probably done a lot more in sales had I been, um, a little bit more focused. The good part about that is that I've stayed in the ears of my audience through stuff like podcasting, through stuff like helping the scholars that I help through, sit in front of panels and boards. So the good part is I didn't fall completely off of the market. I may have kind of been in the corner, but I didn't fall all the way off. I still have a pretty decent name in this field. And so basically now what I have to do is just structure my time that I can relaunch. And because of the momentum that I'm developing, it'll be another intelligent time to do it. So I think the hard part for me was not being as focused as I should have been. And then now it's refocusing on that. While at that point I didn't think I was focused, I was really more focused on learning as opposed to executing the business side of things. So it still worked itself out. It just wasn't, I don't think I really discerned the situation at the time properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think that that learning curve is something that everybody has to have,
Yeah.
and I think with some people refuse to accept failure,
Hmm.
when I think that's a problem as well.
Hmm.
Because I can say probably 100% of the businesses, I gotta say that maybe at least 85, 90% of those businesses struggled, had failures before they became successful.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then like you said, how do you define failure is another part.
Mhm.
And that may be where your circle may be the most uplifting or the most toxic. If you
Right.
got a bunch of people who start stuff and quit stuff because they think they're supposed to get to a certain area by a certain time and they take failure negatively, they're going to be toxic to you. You're going to take failure as toxic, right? But if you're around somebody that is in constant hypothesis where they're always testing stuff, then you won't think of it as failure. Think of it, oh, well, that just didn't work that way. I heard it said that the smartest scientists are not necessarily book smart. They're just very inquisitive. They're going to keep trying to hypothesize until they get an answer. Right? They don't have to be book smart. They just have to be inquisitive. I think it's the same thing with entrepreneurs. If you're trying to be more book smart than you are inquisitive, then as soon as your first failure comes, those books don't help you. You have to start doing self-help stuff. They're not going to help you with the business part, right? And so it's really a mindset. When you get that, when you really watch how somebody, a real smart, intelligent entrepreneur structures their life, then you can see where the success comes from. Um, yeah.
So, how do you define success in your entrepreneur pursuits?
Oh, that's a great question. I think for me right now, it's seeing if what I've developed will work.
Mhm.
Like, will it change that student's life? And I know for sure it will. Has it made me a lot of sales? No, but that was me being distracted. I do know that the concepts do work because I have too many students that I've talked to that I've helped, even if it was just one time, that their life improved based off of the concepts. So I've been successful the whole time. I'm not waiting. I'm positioning myself for the sales to catch up to the success I've been having.
Okay.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of sense too. So, do you think, for that situation, do you think that the return is gonna be way more than what you put in?
What do you mean yeah, I
The
think so.
return on investment.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. The one of the smarter things that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to allow my current collegiate pursuit to invest in the entrepreneur part. AKA, I'm trying to get enough scholarships that it pays for the infrastructure, that my education literally pays for the infrastructure so I can educate other students, if that makes sense. And so that concept is working. And so, yeah, I think I'll get return on investment. And not only that, like I said, because I'm not a full-time entrepreneur and because I don't eat off of the sales, I don't want to say I have time because that may make it sound like I'm lazy, but the good part is I could do it when I want to do it, right? I still eat, kids still eat, wife still eats. And the good part is as I'm doing it, it's getting sharper and sharper and sharper. We're in graduation season now, and I'm starting to get pictures back of students who may have graduated faster based off of conversations we had about how to look at their transcript and their degree plan and choosing what all those type of stuff. And so even right now in May, I'm sensing the success. So yeah, honestly, the return on investment has already been what it is. I look
Wow.
at it like if I was to come off of this live, and if I was to drive down the street, get hit by a car, and pass tonight,
Mhm.
I know even in that accident, how at least a minimum amount of students whose lives changed because of our conversation. Will I know all of them? No. And that's the good part. That means they're unmeasurable. And that's the success for me. I literally want to change as many people, many students' lives across the globe as possible. And I may not know all their names, but as long as they know that when they had a conversation with me about school, their life changed,
Mhm.
success.
Mhm. Does innovation play a part in your business strategy?
Yes, I'm really learning a lot about AI right
Mhm.
now. Not just prompting, but like different places I could put it. Just anytime I see something with AI in it, I'm trying to figure out where would that fit um, in my business to make it easier. The goal for me is to not have to do all the business stuff. It's just to talk to the students. So what can I automate in the business, still be accurate, still do what it needs to do, but still get to do the part of the business I want to do. And so I'm constantly looking for. As a matter of fact, I have set up a Google alert. So literally every day, I get an email with AI articles that I can go look under and see. Okay, here's one tool. Here's another tool. A lot of the tools right now are kind of doing the same thing. Some
Hmm.
of them do it great. Some of them do it bad. But it's just testing all that stuff, especially when they have the free trials and all that, just to see. Okay, this is what I need to implement. This is what I need to implement. Because one thing I don't want to do is I can't serve the students the way I want to serve them if I'm just tired because I'm doing a bunch of business stuff that ultimately probably will take the fire out of doing what I want to do. I don't want to be unmotivated to serve, right? And so I want to use AI to do what I don't want to do so I can stay doing what I do want to do.
So, can you tell us? Can you share a specific moment that solidified your passion for entrepreneurship?
Ooh, specific moment. Mm. Yeah, I was in 2015. I had just gotten back from Taiwan and China. I think I was doing a study abroad. At the time, I was a study abroad student ambassador for the Alamo Colleges, international programs. And I was doing a presentation on studying abroad. So I received the Benjamin Gilman Scholarship, which was through the State Department, U.S. State Department. So part of our role was once you get the scholarship, you come back and you present to other students so that they have the opportunity to understand they can study abroad as well and they can use the scholarship to do it. So I want to say I was at my current school, Palo Alto College, did a presentation. After presentation, a young man walked up to me and said, for I think he was maybe 20 at the time. He was like, I've always dreamed to go to Spain and I have an opportunity, or I'm thinking about studying abroad next summer. And I didn't know how to actually do it. And so when you spoke to us, then I'm feeling a little way about applying, but at least I know now that there's opportunities I can do it. I gave him my phone number and I said, well, when it gets close, let's just have a personal conversation. Let's see. I can't even tell you what the conversation we had, but I know I told him to make sure and apply for the Benjamin Gilman Scholarship. Maybe 5 months later, random out of the blue, I get an email saying, "Hey, Mr. Bryant, I want to thank you for the conversation for applying for the Gilman. I'm going to Spain this summer." And so for him to go somewhere that he's ultimately dreamed to go, and me knowing the experience of studying abroad and how it changes you when you come back, to know that I may have changed a generation because his kids will be
Right.
blessed based off of the opportunity he had to go to Spain. I think that was the first, like, oh wow. I had students before that got scholarships, and
Hmm.
scholarships are great, don't get me wrong. But to know that somebody went to a whole nother country and a whole nother culture that they've always dreamed to go. Like if this was his Hawaii, this is where he wanted to go. And to
Hmm.
know that I was the key to
Hmm.
unlock that door,
Hmm.
that's what started. Now every single student that I talk to, I want to have that same experience. Not selfishly, but I just want them to be able to. I want to know that their life has completely changed, and that it's a blessing that I was the person that was used to help change it. And so that's what sparked all this. If all else fails, if that can keep going, I'm great. If I never make another dollar in Sparkett University, that's fine. Are these lives changing? And if they're changing, then I've already got my reward.
Well, I think when people can have people to help them along, like you have been doing with these younger folk, that really, really uh, lends credence to really give them some confidence and some boost as well.
Hmm.
Because a lot of times, a lot of these kids are first time college people from their families, and they're like out there trying to make it. They don't really know exactly what to do and what not to do.
Hmm.
And so sometimes when they're in search of, and when you could be there for them, I'm sure that young man really, really more than appreciated you doing that for him.
Yeah, like, and I think it came up on my Facebook memories maybe like a month or so ago, and I saved it. And I was just,
Hmm.
oh, I didn't totally forget about it, but I knew it was coming up. But I was like,
Hmm.
wow, that's amazing. And I'm doing it for a living.
Uh-huh.
That's basically what I get to do here at United Way. So to know that sparked it, because the role I have now is the role I've since then been trying to get to. So to
Okay.
know that helping a student and then matriculating through my career, and that now I'm at a spot where literally most of my day I spend actually meeting with students and helping them with everything from their graduation applications to when they need to talk to advisor, what they need to ask their advisor about, when they should go talk to their advisor, um, how they change a major, all that type of stuff. And then to see them walk the stage,
Mhm.
and all of mine are student parents, so their kids get to see them do this.
Wow.
So to know that every day I get to touch two generations,
Mhm.
literally, yeah, it makes it a whole lot of fun.
Mhm. So, how do you balance risk taking with careful planning in your business decisions?
Mm. The best way to balance it is research,
Hmm.
um, because there's risks that are just stupid, and then there's as informed, calculated risk as possible. You're probably never going to be 100% on it because you're not, but you could be a strong 70, right? And
Right.
so, um, not only the research of what's success looks like in my business, but what could be the downfall. So the biggest thing for me was to keep my costs low. So
Mhm.
because I kept my costs low, the risk is not as high because I'm not really dispersing that much in order to do it. So that's the first thing I did was keep your costs as low as possible. And then where the business may not have as big a brand name, I have a brand name. And
Mhm.
so if I can, articulate that or use the skill sets that I've developed in Sparkhead University to here, then literally anytime I need to get testimonials or something like that, I know I have a base that will do it.
Mhm.
Because even if they don't know what I was doing, I know what I was doing. Right. And so, yeah, like I said, researching, making sure that you've counted up as many of the costs as you can, and then being very careful about time. Sometimes you don't have the time to calculate the risk. You just got to go with, prayer or discernment, whatever you call it, right?
Whatever gets you there.
Whatever you do there, right? And then there's other times where if you're not careful, you may think the market is rushing you and it's not. You're listening to the wrong people and it's causing you to rush. So, for instance, there's people that are throwing out right now a bunch of AI stuff, but a lot of it looks the same. So there could be some people that are wasting money on setting up something with AI when they haven't tried to figure out where's the spot AI hasn't touched yet. You got
Right.
places like Nvidia that are trying to make whole robots that think for themselves, so you don't have to prompt engineer. That's
Mhm.
the type of thought process you're looking at. So when you're doing something that other people are doing, you don't want to compare yourself, but you want to look for and I can't remember the author of the book, but a blue ocean strategy. You want to look where there's nobody else.
Mhm.
You want to be Apple and set up the iPad, and then all tablets are now compared to the iPad, even if the iPad was terrible because it was out first and they set up that blue ocean. Now all the rest of the tablets are always going to be compared to that, even if they overtake Apple in sales, right? It's the
Right.
same thing for you. Know
Mhm.
where you're at, know the market that you're in, look for the opportunities that you're in, and then don't be dumb. Learn from your supposed competitors. If they're doing something better than you, or if they're executing something better than you, learn from it. It's not a threat. You are who you are. Your business is going to be who it is, and it's going to serve the demographic it's supposed to serve.
Mhm.
Don't be so arrogant that you can't let your competitors teach you. I follow a lot of people who help students with scholarships.
Mhm.
Most of them don't help them with student success. I
Yes,
do,
sir.
right? And so
Right.
I follow them, I'll promote them, all this type of stuff because I can see an interchangeable part. There's stuff that they give me in scholarships, I'll send it to my scholars.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people who are not, self-secure be like, oh no, I got to find them myself. Why? They're doing it already. They're doing it smart. Let me do the part that they're
Right.
doing. And maybe they'll come to a point where they refer me to a student that they can't help because all they do is scholarships.
Right.
That's what those opportunities I was talking about discerning. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't be arrogant in business. You got to learn because truth of the matter is if you're going to win the way you want to win, there's people winning in the market already. Why would you start all over when they're already teaching you how to win?
Well, some people just again, that's just the lack thereof.
Hmm.
But to your point, to go back and try to start that game all over again, that could be a major problem.
Yep, absolutely.
What key traits do you believe are essential for a successful entrepreneur?
Wow. Resilience, um, self-confidence, emotional intelligence. You got to be emotional intelligent. Um, able to decipher what is distraction and what is something you can use and you may not know how to use it yet.
Mhm.
Um, like I said before, learning from everything and everybody. Um, and then, like I said, not marrying your idea and the way you want it to happen because
Okay.
it just may not be what's needed. Well, take that back. It may be what's needed, but not the way you're trying to push it out there, right?
Mhm.
Think of it like right now, if you are somebody that likes to do stuff for kids, right? Like little kids, right? If you try to put money out for toys, like GI Joes, remember them old GI Joes?
Oh yes.
If you try to put that out now, when these kids are getting tablets and playing on YouTube and all that other type of stuff, PS5s at 2 years old, you're in the wrong market. What you should be thinking about is either how to create a kid's tablet or how to put something on the tablet that they can use, right?
Mhm.
You're still going to help kids. It just may not be the way you envision it to be. So if you are malleable, it's probably a good word,
Mhm.
flexible, um, you have to be, especially how fast things are changing in all markets right now. You have to be. If you're not, I don't care what it is you do, at some point, you're going to get to a point where you're going to be working so hard that when you need to rest, you can't. And when you have the opportunity you've been waiting for your entire life, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it because you're too tired, too broke up, too wore out, and not mentally strong enough to take advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, there. I think what you just described is that innovation that you were talking about.
Hmm.
You know, how has your business adapted to changing market trends, particularly in the recent years?
Um, it hasn't done so as well
Mhm.
because I may have, being transparent, I may have missed the e-course podcast era. There was an era where everybody had a course, and then you had an ebook, and then you had podcast. I mean, like every day somebody was popping one out. I
Mhm.
may have missed that trend,
Mhm.
but the good part about it is, as far as the business is concerned, the good part about it is I myself was never out of the trend. So
Mhm.
there's things that I can now implement into either the course or an ebook or a podcast or some type of TikTok. It could be something I could put out there now that will, you know, um, basically evolve. The information I think is solid, right? The
Mhm.
concepts I think are solid. I know them because not only do I teach to students, I'm actually living them myself. I'm doing what I tell students to do while I'm in college today,
Mhm.
right? And so the delivery of that system is where I'm going to have to innovate. That may be TikTok. And then because TikTok may be banned at the end of this year, it may not be TikTok, right? It may be something
Right.
totally different. And so um, just keeping my eyes open for what the next rumbling could be, and then
Mhm.
seeing what that is, and then taking advantage of that. But I do think now I might have missed the first iteration of courses and podcasts and stuff like that. So I think that's how I'm going to innovate, is see what's next, not jump on it sloppily, but be ready to insert myself in it and then figuring out how to best use it once I'm in it.
That's actually a really good plan. Because when we just like when things kind of like they go, there's some things that's missing or there's something like lacking as you're moving along. um that is, as you spoke of earlier, that's not the time to go all the way back to point one,
Right.
because that's when you have to be able to learn to sit down and evaluate and look and think about, here's what I got. Is there something missing?
Hmm.
Well, when you figure that out, then that's when you're able to insert that, but you may have to insert it with something else, especially as you speak of all the innovation with the AI and so forth. So
Hmm.
then there may be a few extra things that you may have to put into it, but this is how I think you actually find that issue. Some
Yeah.
people don't know how to do that though,
Hmm. And
because they
you
think
said
it's
something.
all or not.
Yeah, and you said some just a second ago that I think that is a real big danger, especially for, unfortunately, for people of color, and that is hustling, right? And so hustling is always jumping at an opportunity, right? Never stopping. You don't team no sleep and all that other type of stuff. The problem with that is there's no evaluation. So you could be doing something that is on the cusp of not working, but you don't know it because you're just working, right? You have to, as a CEO or a founder, you have to take some time to sit back, right? Part of the reason why, these big companies, they're part of the reason why Tim Cook doesn't himself sell you iPhones is because he's got to learn from a executive level how to actually sell them to the maximum amount of people. You can't do that in one-on-one transactions, right? And
Right.
so if you stay in the one-on-one transaction, then you stay hustling. At some point, you're going to pass out, right?
Yes.
And because money never sleeps and you're regulated to time, then if you don't learn simple stuff like how to get your business to invest, so it buys you time, so that dollar stays in your account and makes $1 while you're still going to make another dollar. If you don't figure out how to do stuff like that, then you'll never give yourself the time to sit back, completely evaluate what's going on with your business and see where the holes are, plug the holes, or hire somebody that can plug the holes, and then be able to expand. If you're not, if you are so um in love with the hustle, then don't get the LLC, don't get the don't get the S corp. Just be a hustler. Just sell your chicken dinners or your shoes or whatever you're doing. Just sell them, right? But don't
Right.
say you want to be a person that wants to open a restaurant and you think you're going to cook for the 18 hours that restaurant is open. You're going to cook. You're going to be the waitress. You're going to be the busboy. You can't do it
Cashier.
all, right? You
Right.
can't. You can't. And so if you don't think of um, a system or a structure to do that, your business is not going to last. And truth be told, most CEOs and founders that do that, they don't have a personal system. They don't have a morning routine. They don't have a night routine. They don't have a I'm cutting off my phone at this time. They don't have a I can't be reached at this time. They don't have a I'm turning off the TV at this time. There's no structure in their life. So if there's nothing that they've structured, they're not going to be able to structure their business right. And so
Mhm.
their life is a hustle, and so their business is going to be a hustle.
Okay, I hope y'all are listening to that. That right there's a real point right there that you just made. Because when you talk about doing that hustle, when there's no real thing, that's not a business. That's definitely not a business.
Mhm.
And oh man, I mean that's creative right there. And that's also very innovative, because when you think about this whole big picture now, the picture now, everything is all about this AI and just electronics.
Mhm.
And so you've got to be able to take this whole big old world and you got to put yourself into it. You got to upload into it.
Great
It's
point.
not uploading into you.
Great point. Great point. And the crazy part about that is There are some people that are afraid of AI, and there's some things to be nervous about AI. They've got, deep fake videos that can make you, develop you and have you saying stuff you would never in your life say. Yes,
Mm,
they do have some stuff that if you sign up for it, they take all your rights, so you don't get to keep your intellectual property. Yes. Um, but there's also some stuff you can use that can actually bring you more profit. So think about if you, let's say you are a person that, I don't know, let's say you're a person that used to own a taxi, right? And you just have a taxi company, right? And so imagine if Tesla does come out with these autonomous driving Teslas. Already, you don't have to share any of your cab fare with anybody. You're already making more money. You haven't done anything different, but get you some Teslas, right? Now think about if you put like a Uber type thing into your taxi company because you don't want to give it up and you haven't thought that thing through. How could you use AI, right, to where you could be running a business of 15 cars, but there's only one you, as opposed to before you had to have a minimum of a workforce of 15 because you had to have the drivers, right?
mhm,
So there you can implement that type of stuff in anything. But if you're fighting it now when it's at its infancy stage,
mhm,
when you want to learn it when it's more complicated, it's going to be too late. And by then, I don't care how good you are in your business, you're going to be behind because there's going to be somebody that does the exact same thing for cheaper and faster.
mhm. So, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs looking to start their own businesses?
Research as much as possible. Um, get yourself in a position that whatever internal issues you have, that you get healed from that. Everything from daddy wounds to uh, divorce, like get that fixed. And then while you're doing that, because like I said, the business is going to be a reflection of you as the founder or the entrepreneur. It's only going to go as far as you are developed. And so if you're underdeveloped, it's going to be underdeveloped, even if it's a great idea, right? Do that. You don't necessarily, if you can't afford to get a formal mentor, you may not, aspire to get one, but get as much free information as possible. And then learn who your competitors are and learn what they do. It's going to sound crazy, but in some instances, applaud them.
Mhm,
Some instances, you may want to sneak advertise for them because you never know that there may be some type of partnership that you can have that you can foster that can accelerate. So
mhm,
think of OpenAI with ChatGPT. They're connected with Microsoft. Microsoft is helping OpenAI, and they're not even public yet. So when they go public, as great of a company as they're supposed to be, Microsoft still wins because they own a percentage of OpenAI. Had they not developed that partnership, both of them wouldn't be, their stock wouldn't go as great as possible. So there's different business lessons you can learn, but learn it from everything from Forbes to the ant. The Bible even talks about look at the ant, you sluggard, how it will gather stuff in the summer so it can have stuff in the winter. Are you letting life teach you? And if so, being an entrepreneur will get easier and easier if you're open to not being restricted to whatever you thought entrepreneurship was before you got into it.
Let's make let's change here over into some of the work you do via community engagement.
Okay.
Um, can you tell us what led you to focus on community engagement and why is it important to you?
Basically, the same thing with students. When you see, and teachers will be able to tell you that, is when, like, let's say you have a student that's in a classroom and they've been struggling with something, you literally can see the light bulb. Like you literally see that little yellow bulb above their head. And so when I've been able to help people like that, then it was a matter of what communities are not being touched and how can I basically infiltrate those communities and help them. Everybody needs a help with something. I
Right.
just so happen to be the person that can help with college students. And so any chance I get, I'm involved with so much stuff. Like sometimes I shock me how much I'm involved with stuff, but it's just what I wanted to do. Like once that got ignited into me, then it's basically it. And however I can serve, whether that's sitting on a scholarship committee with the Martin Luther King Jr. one, where we just gave, I think, like $260,000 to high school students, up to allowing or showing students how to apply for scholarships, and that more people win them that don't. And that there's so many millions of dollars that they have access to, that literally this is how you can do it. And so just doing that and seeing people's lives change, it became addictive. And so now I just have to do it in some shape, form, or fashion.
So, can you describe a community project or initiative you are particularly proud of?
Ooh, wow. I would say the biggest one happened to me in 2013. And so I was attending four of the Alamo colleges, and I was part of the Alamo Colleges Student Leadership Institute, and my instructor at the time signed me up for a business competition, right? And so she didn't tell me; she literally just signed me up, and it was a international. When I mean international, I mean it was students from Peru all the way to China, right? Different teams, different colleges. The team I was on was the only community college that was in the competition. After 11 weeks, we wind up earning the third place ranking. What made that so special, though, was that's how I started getting scholarships. And then that became a study abroad that I went to Taiwan and China. When I went to Taiwan and China 2 years later, I was the only student that was on the team and studied abroad. So there was five other students that had never been to China, that had I not said yes in 2013, they wouldn't have been going to China in 2015. And to know that you may be helping somebody in the future that you don't know until you get there, I think that was it. That's what started basically all of this. Because once I started getting scholarships, that gave me the opportunity to to speak to students. That boosted my public speaking, because I used to be very shy and wouldn't, not in a public forum, person to person I would, but not in the public forum. So that's the community engagement part that's really done it. And I've been living off of that momentum literally since then. So I've been doing it for over 10 years based off of that one yes. I didn't know what I was saying yes to at first, because literally she told me that she signed me up after they contacted me, right? But I think had I not said yes, we wouldn't even be having this conversation today. You wouldn't know me, because I wouldn't have been along this path. I would have been doing something totally different. So that's the one that started it all.
Well, I gotta say, for all the work that you do, especially helping those students, but then, to do it out in the community, it seems like, and I gotta know what kind of clock that is you got, because I mean, like, you got like a million things going on.
Yeah.
How do you balance that with your family life?
Um, well, like I said before, like the one of the good parts is I live about 25 miles from here where I'm at United Way, San Antonio, Bexar County. And so I normally leave my house no later than 6:05. Now here's where the key part is. I don't have to be inside the office and work until 8:15. I normally get here about 6:30, 6:35. If I'm sleepy, I'll take a nap till like 7. But I give
Okay.
myself in the morning between basically 6:05 to 8:15. So in the morning, I've already started out reading, pouring into me, praying, all that type of stuff. So I'm already kind of fueled. I've done a lot of my own personal work between 6 and 8:15. So I'm basically done with me for the most part. Um, when I leave here, then after 7 o'clock, my work phone, or my scholar phone is what I call it, it goes on do not disturb. And I let them know, hey, between now and 7, I may be accessible. But after 7, I'm not accessible anymore, because I do have a wife, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I have that. And then because the me going to school, it's online, basically all I need to know is when my assignments are due. I can configure when I'm going to study based on the busyness of the week. And so what I've been able to do is, and I work salary. So it's not like an hourly type thing. You got, that type of stuff. There's some flexibility. So because I have so much flexibility, it's really just organization and the morning structure that helps for the rest of the day. The family part, normally it's Saturday. I'm normally basically working at the church on Sunday. So
Mhm.
it's me starting off on Monday. Hey, when do I want to be off? When do I want a free night? When do I need to study? When is my exams due? When I need to stay late for work? By Monday morning, I kind of know what all that's going to be. And so I've basically set up the whole week, as flexible as it is, to be able to be a part of every portion of my life. The other part is, if I take something on, I ask how much time it's going to take immediately.
Mhm.
How much time is this going to take? Because I need to calculate that into the time period I have for the rest of the month. If I didn't do that, and when I didn't do that, um, then I did get burned out. The great part is I kind of know what I want to do, and so it's easy for me to say no to an opportunity, because I could tell the difference between good ones and great ones. The good ones are normally, I'm going to get 1x return on it. So that may be sitting on a panel. That may be, I don't know, doing a survey for somebody. But then there's the opportunities to present in front of students. That's a 10x return. That more than likely is going to be a yes. How long
Mhm.
is that going to take me? What do you want me to talk about? Because I may already have the presentation already ready. I just got to go over it. So really, it's knowing that you are limited, right? Knowing when I need to rest, and then configuring my whole day, week, month to where I still rest and I'm as full as I need to be, that I pour into my family, and then I can do the rest of the stuff after that. Structure.
Ah, key word.
hmm
How do you involve community members in the decision-making process of your initiatives?
Are you talking about with me personally, or
Yeah,
with
community engagement.
normally they're the ones that reach out to me, and so they've already figured that part out for the most part. So
Okay.
let's say it was the MLK Junior Scholarship Committee that I just served on.
Mhm.
They basically have been doing this every year. Before I did the scholarship evaluation, this year was the first time I was actually on the committee. And so, what our committee chair did so well was she already kind of knew what she needed to do, and she had
Mhm.
done it before. And so she kind of structured our days, our meetings, and all that other type of stuff to be able to do what we needed to do. So, for the most part, I would say probably 95, 96%, the community is already involved. They're just adding me to something they're already doing. Very rarely is it something that I'm doing front facing and having them come along. I normally hop on somebody else's wagon because it may be too much for me to try to develop it myself.
Mm. So let's transition over to your mentorship.
Mhm.
How did you first get involved in mentorship, and what motivated you to pursue that?
First formally was, like I said, after that business competition, I started having student organizations on college campuses, specifically the Alamo colleges, reach out to me to see if I could come speak to their students about scholarships and all that other type of stuff. I think what started birthing the mentoring part was the conversations I would have with students afterwards. So after a presentation or something like that, they would say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" And so it became kind of organic. It wasn't really a date, it wasn't really a real true event. It was just organic, organic, organic. Um, and then at one point, I kind of stopped it for a while because I didn't think I was as developed for it, because you have to be, mentoring is real responsible heavy, because like I said earlier, if you're not healthy, you're pouring toxic stuff into people, right? And
Yep.
so if you're not good as a mentor mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all that type of stuff, then you're not even pouring, you're putting sludge in people. And so there was a time period when my mother was sick that I didn't know if I could do it as often, because she was sick and I had to help take care of her while she was going through her journey in cancer. And so there was a layoff. And then when I finally got back into doing it, when I started working at St. Philip's, in the role I had, I couldn't do it as much as I wanted to do it. So I kind of delayed it. Then it was, the more I got into that role, the more I could navigate my time is how it kind of rebirthed in me. And now it's basically what I do every day. So I'm for the scholars that I have, I'm basically their coach slash mentor. And so it's more heavy now because it's literally my part of my job description.
Can you describe a specific mentoring relationship that's had a profound impact on you?
Profound impact on me. Mm, that's a good question. Um, mm, I would say there's one now. I won't say her name, but there's one now. Um, she's part of our program now, and um she went through a lot of trauma. When I say a lot of trauma, she started a program maybe 2 years ago, head first, full time nursing school. Everything was going great. 4 kids, husband, life is good. Husband gets murdered. Husband gets murdered while she's in the nursing program. And if you know anything about those nursing programs, a lot of them don't care.
Mhm.
It's a medical field. You either take these classes when we say take them, or you start completely over. Not the last class you took, completely over, right? And which means that's all that money that you got to spend. And most of them don't want you to work. Now she's got 4 kids. And you don't want to work. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, but talking to her, and this is right before the holidays. So
Mhm.
she's going through this a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, a couple weeks before Christmas, a couple weeks before Valentine's, and a couple weeks before her birthday. Like I mean, bang, 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 right? And then just dealing with her and the fact that she was nervous about the child care that we were giving her and everything, and to see her take the steps to be able to be vulnerable with me. She didn't know me that well, especially not that you don't. She didn't know me that well to be that vulnerable, and then to be able to take stuff not only with school, but we had a conversation about grief therapy, and I was able to tell her, hey, if you're not totally honest with your grief therapist, then you basically you keep scratching a scab. It's all it's going to do is keep scabbing over. It's never going to heal. So even though this is something that you need to be vulnerable about, unless you do that, you're not going to get healed. And so the fact that she did do that, that she was as vulnerable as possible, so much so she went to a conference in Dallas, I want to say, for husbands and wives who had lost their mate. And to know
Mhm.
that she was that strong at that point to be able to go to a conference and deal with her stress and trauma, that's life changing. She's still in school. She got accepted into one of the top online nursing schools in the country after this has happened. So that's if there's one that I'm gonna lean on and say that's been most impactful, it's that one because everything about that says she should have gave up. She
Mhm.
had 4 kids. She even had some health issues after this. Everything says she should have gave up. But the fact that she didn't and she's thriving and that I was the bridge to walk through. Like she didn't even know how to go get grief counseling or what that would entail. And the fact that I was able to help her at least try to go do it. She's African American, and a lot of times we think of therapy is anti-God or something like that, and so we'll mess around and live in trauma unnecessarily because we don't want to be vulnerable enough to go get fixed in this way. And the fact that she took all that stuff and said, no, I'm going to be the best version of myself, can you help me? And we were able to get to this point.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's been the most impactful one. I've had some that have had some issues, but not at one time and
Right.
over a certain time. It's her. She's the one that's the most impactful to me.
Oh, wow. And so, what qualities do you look for in a mentee?
Um, hmm, Probably a level of vulnerability enough to be able to speak to how I can help outside of what I normally do. I think the other part is the posture of learning. Am I the most intelligent person? No. But if they have that posture to learn, then whatever I know at the time period,
Mm.
then I know the one thing they'll be is a good steward. The one thing I've learned is that, the older you get, the more you're conscious of time. When you're younger, you think you're gonna live forever, whatever. But when you start getting over like 40, you start thinking, especially if you, two things happen. People start dying around you that's around your age, and then
Mm-hmm.
people a little bit older than you. Well, 60 is a lot closer to 40 than 60 was to 20. So now you don't want to waste your time on nothing. So for a mentee, I've got to know that you'll take our time and steward it well. Even if we meet just once, I gotta discern that whatever we talk about that you're gonna implement, it may not work, but at least I know you're gonna use it. So I don't feel like I wasted my time, because I've had to learn that I can't transfer my disappointment in one mentee to the other. Because if for a time period I would leave all kids alone because this one didn't listen. Well, that's not fair to the other ones. And so that's one of the things that they have to do. I know they have to manage my time well. I know that they've got to be vulnerable to be able to be taught, um, and teach. There's some things I need to learn from the mentee that I may not know, um, and then have the posture to learn. If they've got those three, then 9 out of 10 times we'll have a pretty good relationship, mentor mentee relationship.
I think throughout all the work that you do, um, I know that this is your second time on the show, but I want to tell you, I think for all the work that you do, I mean, I hope that the people in your city of San Antonio, the people that are watching on this show, realize that there are people like yourself that give all your valuable time,
Hmm.
you know, to helping people in many, many ways. And sometimes that's a hard thing to do.
Hmm.
And when we mention our communities, because our thing is about building our communities, and that's your work actually does those things. Can you tell us why are those things so important to you?
Building community.
Yes, and working with people and helping them in the communities.
Um, hmm. I think it was something my dad said a while ago. So I want to say this might have been 7 or 8 years ago. He said, "I found a way to live forever," right? And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm watching him on stage say this, and he said he had some of his spiritual sons with him. He said, "I'll live through impacting their lives, and they'll impact people," right? And so when I
Okay.
like got that concept, I was like, it's not
Mhm.
selfish that I'm thinking about living forever, but it would be selfish of me not to pour as much as I can, because, like I said before, I don't know how many people I would touch, right? And that's not a selfish thing. That's me literally trying to figure out a way to help as many students as possible. When you're facing, let's say, systems like I'm facing with the student loan crisis, right? You could do one or two things. You can either be a martyr trying to fight a system that you're probably not going to beat. Think of all the great men in just African American history. All of them got killed or murdered, or just flat out died from mysterious causes. You know what I mean? Or what you can do is win in your individual place, and then as many people around you help them win in their individual places, and that changes stuff. Um, and so that's kind of how I'm doing it, and that's why it's so important. San Antonio, we say, is one of the biggest, smallest cities.
Mm.
The separation of people is like two people instead of 6 degrees of separation. And so, because I've been able to build this network, it's how can I help them, and or how can they help me make San Antonio, South Texas, Texas, the U.S., the world better. Um, I'm not going to die full. And so, since I don't want to make my grave the wealthiest part of my life, I've got to empty all that stuff out now. And so, because I've just been blessed that it's a lot, there's a lot of people I need to try to converse with and all that other type of stuff to make sure that um, one thing I remember, one of the most impactful lessons my mother taught me, she was passing away. So, the last week of her life, even though I had faith in God, she was passing. Like, she hadn't eaten. You could see her eyes were gray and all that other type of stuff. And I thought about the last conversation we had before then. She was so peaceful. She was just so calm. What she taught me in death was that since we're going to go anyway, right? I might as well get as close to peace on my way out. Most people who cling on to their life and fight for their life is because they left something undone and they know it, and they know they ran out of time. What I can't do is run out of time knowing I could do something now. And so if that means talking to everybody from Governor Abbott to the locust homeless dude, however that looks, if they're in the community, it's my job, my my impact, my legacy to do just that. And so I wake up every morning to do just that.
Mhm. Wow. I gotta say, the work is more than just impactful because um, it's meaning, and it's that long term meaning that you were mentioning when you talk about your father.
Hmm.
Because it's those kind of things that make up so many differences in just the lives of many people.
Hmm.
And so that leads us to, as you were, I asked you about who was the most influential person in your life and your career in Black history.
Hmm.
And you mentioned it was your father.
Hmm.
And, so those kind of things I understand, why, that would be the choice. But can you tell us in what ways has your father influenced your approach to entrepreneurship?
Well, he, like I said, he's always been from the time that I've known, like been cognitive of what he was actually doing for a living, been an entrepreneur, or at least operating like one.
Mhm.
He had his own business, like I said, and I remember him getting up, getting dressed. I remember he had a yellow, he's pest control. He had like navy blue Dickies, rubber boots, and he had this yellow shirt that said Bryant Way because it was Bryant Way Pest Control on it. I
Mhm.
remember him doing that and how that risk was and how he would set in his own hours the whole time while he was pastoring. He was doing the same thing. And then I remember when he went um, full time pastoring, and he went from one side of town, San Antonio, west side of San Antonio, to the northeast side of San Antonio, took a west side church and put it in a warehouse, right? Like a converted warehouse. It was still sheetrock and didn't look anything like a church, looked like a literal warehouse. I remember maybe fourth, fifth grade, he made that move, and the vision it took for that, to know that that was when I was in fourth or fifth grade. I'm 46 now. To
Mhm.
know that he developed that church, changed the structure of it, built a gym, wind up selling that to the very same warehouse to another church for probably over $1 million, right? That was once a YMCA, once a Boys and Girls Club, to buying a piece of property a block or so away, and buying that piece of property for 250, selling 1 acre of it for 750, and being able to put his church in a good financial state. And then the people that came out of that church, my current pastor, is actually one of my dad's spiritual sons. And
Mhm.
so everything my current pastor, my pastor, has been doing from here all the way to South Africa. We had a church in South Africa that would have never happened had my dad not had vision 40, 50 years ago. And to understand that even when people told him he was crazy, he was lucky, all that other type of stuff, that he kept the vision solid for years.
Mhm.
That piece of property he bought 30 years before he broke ground on it. And to have vision that long, to have vision that tight, to be able to shut up the noise and now be such a pillar of the community, that he's been inducted in the Clergy Hall of Fame. And at one point, when Mayor Ivy Taylor was the mayor of San Antonio, she was on his pastoral council as one of two African American men. The other one was my current pastor. And so when you're making that big of a stride and that vision is so huge that even the city councilman doesn't do much business on his side of town without conversing with him, and that level of influence, that's what he taught me about entrepreneurship. That sometimes that vision, that you may be the only one that sees what you see, and you may have to keep it longer than what you may have anticipated first. And so that's why my dad is living Black history. And so to be connected to somebody that impactful, literally all over the globe. Everywhere my pastor goes, he has been influenced by my dad. And my pastor, we've been to London together. And to know that my dad's influence has touched literal continents, and that thing runs through me, and that I've touched literal continents.
Mhm.
Um, that's what he's taught me. And so I try to actually think of somebody else that was more influential. And as big as Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or any of the other great men have been, I didn't get to touch those or see those. They passed before, you
Mhm.
know. Even with a Barack Obama and a Colin Powell, none of them to me I saw. I
Mhm.
saw my dad make history, and so that's what was my Black History hero.
Ooh, that's impactful. Can you share a specific lesson or value your father instilled in you that has shaped your career?
Yes, my dad is real good with people individually.
Mhm.
So he can connect to almost anybody, right? If he
Mhm.
has a conversation with you, he can really in depth connect. It was a skill set that was dormant in me until he told me that I had the gift of gab. When he said that, it unlocked the skill set to be able to connect with people. So now when I connected with students, I'll see my dad walk through his church pews and talk to somebody in the back. And because he's bishop, sometimes they'd be like, I don't know why he's talking to me, or why would you talk to me? And to see him connect, I do the same thing with students. I
Mhm.
didn't know I was doing it until I became a little bit more conscious. Um, that and then the power of his voice. My dad has one of those voices. He used to sing too. He has one of those voices that if he talks, you hear him, even if it's a lot of people talking.
Mhm.
I've realized that I have the same type of voice. So much so that if you call me after you call my dad, you would think you never hung up with my dad. We sound the same
Mhm.
on the phone. Taught me that. He also taught me how to be seen and unseen in a room.
Yes.
How to walk into a room and literally without saying anything, everybody knows you're there. He taught me how to do that. It wasn't something he sat me down. I just caught it by watching him. But he also taught me how to be the most quietest person in the room.
Mhm.
Taught me that. He also taught me business lessons like whenever you're negotiating, once you put out an offer, the next person that speaks loses. So how to say something and then be quiet until somebody responds, and how to be patient in that wait and not to get so anxious that you screw up the deal you could have made had you just been quiet. So discipline of the mouth. He taught me a whole lot um, of stuff that way, and most of it wasn't, son, let's sit down and talk.
Mhm.
Most of it was watching him work,
Mhm.
and I caught it by watching him work.
That's called presence. You're saying your
Mhm.
father had presence.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
How did your father's experience and background contribute to your perspective on community engagement?
I didn't know it at the time. I remember him talking about a organization called Beat AIDS, BEAT, and I couldn't even tell you what that acronym stands for. I just remember him doing it as a little kid. But come to find out, he was doing things like speaking with drug users and trying to figure out a way to prevent them from getting AIDS. So much so that they would try to speak to local clinics and stuff to try to get them clean needles. We may not be able to stop you from taking drugs, but at least we won't use the same bloody needles as other people. And I didn't know how big it was until recently. I thought it was his organization. He was just part of it. And that how big of an impact it's made on the east side of San Antonio, so much so it's still alive and it's still doing that type of work. And so knowing he was doing stuff like that when I was little, maybe didn't get the concept, but I did get the concept. He was more than just a pastor. He was more than just an entrepreneur. He was also somebody involved in the community. It took me a while to get there, but I wound up becoming almost the same type of man he is. And so um, stuff like that is how he did little stuff when I was little. And because I was present and watching him, I caught it. I didn't know it was deposited until I got old enough to do it myself.
Those were big things. They weren't little
Hmm.
things.
Yeah, they weren't
They
little
were
things.
impactful things.
Hmm.
What role did your father play in your personal development and understanding of mentorship?
Well, being a pastor, especially with, I want to say, probably over his lifetime, he's probably quote unquote birthed, whew, man, well over 100 or so pastors, ministers, stuff like that. And so watching him interact with them and hearing the stories from them. I was never really in the room when he was talking to them, right? But to hear him later on and hear stuff like have one that feel like they screwed up and that he was going to get down on them, and for him to be able to say, well, no, you're harder on you than I could ever be on you. Basically, you've learned your lesson, right? Type things, and how to we call it rebuke, be able to rebuke people in love and get them straight and not throw them away. Big thing. So when you're talking to, for me, when I'm talking to students, I could easily throw them away. Hey, that was stupid. Why'd you do that? But I've learned through the stories coming from him how to be able to get them to a place of correction without killing them. Big, humongous um, lesson that he taught me, and it's one of the things that I put into um, my practice today. The other one is patience. When you are a pastor, most people think that all you do is preach and you go kiss babies and bless houses and all the other type of stuff. What they don't know is the mental toll it takes when you have to perform a funeral on an infant, right? That you prayed and have faith would be healed of whatever, or when you have to conduct the finance and the business of the church and your own home. Like you have two different entities that you're trying to run, and how to be able to balance that stuff. So stuff like that is how he helped me in entrepreneurship, how he helped me in what I like to call people management or student management, what he helped me in relationships and how powerful they were. My dad is one of those guys that I know a guy type people, that if I call him, oh, I know a guy, give me a couple of days, right? And when I was younger, I'd be like, come on, dude, do you really know that many people? But truth of the matter, if my last car that I purchased, he said, give me a couple of days. And he got me a better deal than the deal I was trying to, because the guy that he uses for his vehicle used to be a car dealership owner. So he doesn't
Oh,
just
wow.
know a regular person. He knows the person you need to know, right? And
Right.
because of the relationship building and because of how they love him, and because he stewards who he sends well, the
Mhm,
idea that I'm not going to bring you to somebody that can help you and you're terrible. You're
mhm,
already ready for the help. They can help you. Let me put this marriage together. That
mhm.
skill set in and of itself was another thing. But he's one of those guys. And so to know that I've become one of those people, I literally tell my students especially if they're going to St. Philip's College, who's your advisor? Okay, have you talked to this person in the records office? Have you talked to this person in the VA? I worked there for 3 years. So I know exactly who to go send them to and stuff like that. And I learned that literally from watching him serve the people of God at his church.
You've got a unique thing that most people in our communities don't actually get the opportunity
Hmm.
to spend time with their fathers.
Hmm.
And you've got more than just that time, because you've got life lessons and you've got the things that you've learned by watching your father.
Hmm.
And I want to know if you can describe a moment when your father's influence particularly guided you during a challenging time.
Oh, easy. I give you easy one. So real easy. Oh, I mean, real easy, real easy. So I got married. My first marriage real young, right?
Mm.
Got married young. I was in my teens, 18, 19,
Oh.
and we got stationed in Honolulu, Hawaii. I hated it because of where we stayed in Honolulu, right?
Mhm.
Um, for some reason, the people didn't like me. I didn't like them. So we came back, and the people on base didn't like me for whatever reason. Um, and so got back. So obviously we're young. We wind up getting ready to go through the divorce. And I never forget, he told me, he said, son, they're coming. And I was like, what do you mean they're coming? And he was telling me that basically the women are going to show up because you're getting divorced. They're going to know you're getting divorced. They're coming. And then he said, son, if you're going to deal with these women, never lie to them. Whatever your intention is with this young lady, tell her the truth, because a man doesn't lie to a woman. You tell her the truth and you give her the opportunity to make a decision on her own. Now, if she makes the wrong decision, that's her fault. If you don't tell her and give her the honest truth, then that's your fault. And so it taught me already how to um, be able to navigate that time period, because I could have easily went stupid, crazy, all the other type of stuff. But what it kept me was sober in dealing with women.
Mhm.
And that was the biggest thing. I probably wouldn't be ready for my wife now had I not listened to that sage wisdom then. And that was in my 20s, where I was
Mhm.
still, full of a bunch of testosterone. I was playing football at the time, all that type
Mhm.
of stuff. I could have really screwed up my life had I not navigated that season well. And it
Mhm.
was the sage wisdom of, you can't stop them approaching you, but what you can be is at least intelligent on your management of how you interact with them, right? And so that was the easiest. That one, I was ready for you to ask that question. That one was easy to tell you, was that because it helped me um, deal with people now. And most of the students I work with are young ladies. And
Mhm.
so, um, had I not been sober in that type of period, I don't think I would have been mature enough to be able to handle them now.
Well, so in closing,
Mhm.
what are some of the things you'd like for our audience to take away from this wonderful lesson of things that you do? That is from the entrepreneurship to the community engagement to the mentorship. What are some of the things you want them to take from this show tonight? And also, if they needed to connect with you via social media, your website, or whatever have you, what are some of the things that you'd like for them to know?
Well, you can connect with me I'm on LinkedIn, Threads, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I'm not as active like video wise on TikTok. Most of them you can look under Naphtali, Naphtali, and then my middle name Tekoa, Tekoa Bryant. Most of my social media is on that. You can look me up that way. The website for the Spark University is literally Spark, SPARK hyphen ED university.org. Um, that's how you can kind of contact me. As far as life lessons, I would say probably at least two. Be in constant development, whether that's self development, whether that's spiritual development, whether that's health development. Never stop growing, always be in a posture of development. And then B, make sure that you're healthy enough in every way to do what you're called to do. If you're called to make hamburgers, be as healthy as you can to make those burgers. If you're called to minister to people, whether that's through religious things or whether that's serving your community as city councilman, be as healthy as you can, and as whole as you can, because how you show up is how you're going to minister to everybody. So those are two. I would say the last one is to make sure you structure your life for the opportunity that you're trying to get ready for. Every opportunity is going to require some level of structure in your personal life. That may be what time you wake up. That may be what time you go to bed. That may be how much time you spend on the phone. That may be what you're actually looking at on social media. But you're going to need structure in your life to be able to maximize on the opportunities that are waiting for you in the future. You can't afford to wait till then to get yourself ready. You got to get ready now. And I think those would be the lessons. Probably the last one is, and this is something I tell my students, um, opportunities are in people, right? And so the better you are with managing and interacting with people, the more opportunities will show up for you. You can't hate people and love opportunities. That equation doesn't add up. You're only going to get opportunities if people love you. Now, that doesn't mean you have to change who you are. That doesn't mean everybody gets the full glimpse of you. But do know that the opportunity you're looking for, you probably either have met or getting ready to meet the person that can unlock that. So make sure that you treat everybody fair. Make sure you treat everybody as a human being, and then manage those relationships well. Be honest. Tell them if you have the capacity to deal with them, or tell them that you don't. Don't lie, and like I said, be a good people manager and watch those opportunities show up.
Well, I want to say this is that I'm so honored that you came back to the show again to give our audience um, again some great knowledge, some great feedback as to not just what your everyday life is, but those things that you do to help
Mhm.
others, because that's hand in hand of what this platform is serving as a resource for the underserved and marginalized communities. And so, whenever there are people like you, we like to make sure that not only do we have you here out front where people can see who the person is, but people get to learn these lessons. Like you say, your father taught you life
Mhm.
lessons. These are life lessons that people are actually
Mhm.
learning. And I appreciate you so much for that, because it matters, when we can do things to not only help our communities, especially in this
Mhm.
time, but to really try to be there and be that resource to make everybody strong and to help people understand what unity is, what it's like to actually reach back and pull somebody
Mhm.
forward, because that is needed so much right about now. That makes you more than just a special person. And I just tell you, I do remember when we first connected on LinkedIn, and I read your profile, and I was just like, this guy's got to be on the show. you know and so, I mean, it really means that much. And I mean, again, this platform cannot survive without great guests and great people like yourself. And I just want to thank you again for
Oh,
that.
well, thank you. Like I said, man, anytime you call, man, if I'm available, you got me. I really appreciate not only all that you did for me, but all that you did for those who may have a voice and been doing great things that people don't know about. I totally agree. The community needs to know that they are probably closer to their heroes than they know. There's
Mhm,
the people that are celebrities, but there's some celebrities that you need to know, that hopefully this
mhm.
podcast and this platform can get you to those people that are doing things that will not only change your life but change the lives of those around you. So I really
Yes,
really thank you. Like I said, I apologize again for the lights. I had to change locations, but I'm really grateful that you allowed me this time to be on your show.
oh, that's not a problem. And for those of you that are watching on the YouTube channel, if you have not yet subscribed, please help us out and support us by actually subscribing to the channel and getting all of the notifications, so that every time we do a show, you will get notified of when that show is about to take place. You can watch the show live. If you like to go back and watch all the archive shows, you'll be able to do that as well. But we definitely would appreciate the support as we grow together in order to make sure that we can continue to color these conversations on the canvas of America, to build our communities and make them as one unified community around this country, hopefully around the world. But we want to have that impact. Together we can do that. We can't do it if we're separate. I want to thank you again, and I want to thank those people that were watching out there on the YouTube channel. Please give us some feedback. Let us know what you'd like to see, and we're definitely going to continue to do good things here. And we appreciate everybody's support. Thank you again, sir. You all have a great evening, and we'll be doing a special show tomorrow night. We're going to have Mr. Crawley on the show. He's running for mayor for the city of Bruce, Mississippi. He's going to be here, and he's going to be discussing his platform that he's going to be doing for his constituents and why he's going to be the better candidate. Please tune in tomorrow and learn a lot about what he's going to be doing to help his constituents, because again, these are people that people need to know and why we need to support them. You all have a great evening. We will see you all tomorrow night. And thank you, everybody. And